presentation again. There you go.
Okay.
All right.
So good to the proofreader? Okay.
There was just too much going on there. It's like,
Yeah.
which one do I?
Apparently there's a different meeting for each meeting.
Yeah.
Just a reminder too, that there's an executive session at the end of this meeting.
Fantastic.
So we're good then.
For now. In an hour, we'll need to do that again. It's because, if you can see right here.
No, it's all fine. It was leaking.
See, I thought there was a light under.
Well, see, that's where I noticed back there. So why is there a light? I asked him that screen.
Mark figured it out in about 2 seconds. It took me, I was like, there's something broken there.
Yeah. So it's cables. It's staying up now. Yes, sir.
Was it all to the trip? Okay, so you already got something. From where? When she starts doing her tissue allergies.
We're going to go ahead and get started with the workshop portion of our meeting today. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet in a closed executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in closed session, we will announce that particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. No one signed up for public comments, so we will move into the presentation of proposed updated strategic plan. Mr. Schubert.
Trustees, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, Board of Trustees, thank you again for your time. We're going to talk today about the updated strategic plan. And I've got one of my partners in crime, George Guajardo, who's our Director of Institutional Research and Effectiveness. Just so you know, trustees, George works on strategic plan. He's also our SAC COC guru, so he's buried deep in the 10-year report that's going to be submitted here coming up for reaffirmation. So George has been a great help in working on this strategic plan. We had a strategic plan committee. I'll show you that in the slideshow. Had a full strategic plan committee that met from a cross representation from all of the college. They were working starting in August and throughout this past fall semester, and I believe they've done a wonderful job with the presentation of an updated strategic plan for your recommendation. Trustees, the ultimate goal of this would be to present this at the February board meeting for your review and approval at that meeting. We wanted to get your opinion, your thoughts on this, and incorporate anything you had ideas or thoughts, ways to make this better. We wanted to have you all a chance to just dig into this in this workshop session, and any changes or updates you have, we'll be making sure to make note of that and get that in. So trustees, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So, strategic plan overview. There were several goals that we had in this plan, and that was developing that systematic, continuous process for the collecting, the analyzing, the evaluating, and acting upon the data and the information that we found in our process. And then that kind of resulted in a living document, if you will, that's been molding and mending through the process that you're going to see here shortly. And really that effort is to expand that strategic plan based on several items. At the bottom of this page, you're going to see sort of that mission and vision statement at the very top. We'll talk about that briefly. Currently, we have 3 strategic priorities in our strategic plan. We're looking at those and then expanding on those further down for the strategic initiatives. The reason I'm showing you this is these are the titles you're going to see in these slides. Strategic priorities are the overall items. Those strategic initiatives are the subpoints, if you will, below those overall items. Trustees, first, let's talk about the mission and vision statement. I mean, you stare at it the whole meeting. I don't need to read it word for word, but we've revisited these mission and vision statements with not only the strategic planning committee, we also talked to several of our campus advisory committees about this as well. Some of you were in the audience when those discussions were going on, reaffirming these mission and vision statements. Had some really good feedback from some of those campus advisory committees on how we're achieving this, ways we can do that better. But these are the overall mission and vision statements of the college. When you look at that strategic planning committee, it had a total of 16 members from across the college. As I said, they started meeting in August, and throughout the fall 2023 semester, they really worked diligently. I've got to give my hats off to these strategic planning committee members. A really great job that they did as a whole. They also broke down into subcommittees based on those strategic priorities that we'll be discussing here shortly. So we had the full committee talking about everything in general, and then you had subcommittees that were talking about the different 3 strategic priorities that we'll talk about here, and then they fed that back up to the full committee and resulted in this recommendation. I have to give these wonderful people a shout out. I wanted to make sure we got their names and titles in this presentation. They have been the heart of the strategic planning process. They've given their time and efforts. I'm very thankful for all of them. I got to sit in on a lot of these meetings and really enjoyed the dialogue and the back and forth. But these are the people here that put in their blood, sweat, and tears into developing and designing this new strategic mission to the college. And I want to personally thank each and every one of them for their time spent on that. They were tasked with looking at a couple of things, supplementing the existing facility master plan with those strategic priorities and initiatives. They reflected on that expanded scope of that in this process. We did what's called a strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, what you'll hear referred to as a SWOT analysis. What that was a data survey that went out to our college community and also the campus advisory committee members, and they fed that information back into the survey, anonymous survey, populated it back into the system, and George and his great group took that data, analyzed it, and kind of categorized that based on feedback into those 3 strategic priorities, overall priorities we're looking at. Really, really good feedback. We actually released that twice to get even more feedback. So we're really happy with the SWOT survey and from those internal and external stakeholders. We did also have a discussion with executive council over this plan and process. Some really good feedback from there. And one of the things we took out of that feedback was some focus groups. So we had the SWOT analysis and the data. We had the strategic plan committee. We then broke into other people around the college into focus groups. These were kind of open discussions, if you will, about those strategic priorities. They were broken down by priority, and these were just other members of the college that wanted to come and join those events. And I thought that was great. I really felt like everyone had buy-in to this. So you had the full committee, you had their subcommittees, you also had advisory committees. Now you've got focus groups of people from the college coming and giving their thoughts on this. And we held those on multiple campuses. They also had online option as well. So they were joining virtually, they were joining in person. I was very, very interested to hear some of the thoughts that they had. We also considered several sources of information. George has been a wonderful help to the college and really on his IR&E, Institutional Research and Effectiveness is what IR&E stands for. Him and his office have developed what are called data dashboards, and you'll find these on our website under the IR&E section. Really interesting information about trends and processes and thoughts. Really great information that George has compiled from a lot of different areas of the college into one section, the data dashboards, on our website. Well, referred to a lot of that information as well as we were going through this process. So giving more about the SWOT survey, of course it was faculty, staff, and select campus advisory board members. We had 181 participants, which was about a 17% response rate, which we're very happy with. And it was a narrative and also open-ended questions. So it wasn't just, here are the questions, they could give open-ended responses and narratives as well. Of course, those responses were analyzed by George and his group. We also had an external consultant named Steve Johnson, Dr. Steve Johnson, who is worked very hard on this. He has a lot of experience in higher education. He was with TAC, Association of Community Colleges, for many years. He was the chancellor of Western Governors University as well. So he's a lot of experience in and around higher education for many years. And those responses were then placed into those distinct themes. And those major themes are what fed into the research for the full committee and also the subcommittee. Speaking of those focus groups, November 28th, we held 3 focus groups, as I said, one for each strategic priority, and we got that additional feedback, and like I said, they were held on multiple campuses and also had the online option as well. Let's get into it, trustees, and I'm going to borrow George here as we go through this, and if you have any hard questions, George will take all of those. Strategic priority 1, student success. So remember, trustees, we're talking about all the overarching 3 priorities. The first one, student success. Let's break that down into that strategic initiative, those subpoints, if you will, underneath that bullet point. So the first is QEP, Quality Enhancement Plan. Trustees, you've looked at this previously. You're actually getting an update from Dr. Busicki and his group at the February meeting on the QEP. Looking forward to hearing that report. The QEP is one of the main items of our SAC-COC 10-year reaffirmation. It's the heart of that. A lot of other things go into it, but QEP is very important. So we knew the work that the QEP committee did, separate from the strategic plan, was very important to put into this strategic plan as Strategic Initiative 1.1. So those you have goals of the QEP. I'm not going to do it justice. You're going to hear an update from Dr. Busicki and his group at the February meeting, but it just really discusses that QEP and why it's important. It has the goals of those QEP, which is really to enhance the completion of developmental college-ready coursework. That's a matter that Dr. Busicki and his wonderful group identified and really focused in on how we can improve that with the QEP. And of course, we have those interventions about guided advising, tutoring, writing center, online support, all those wonderful items that the QEP offers. We thought it was very important to put that as Strategic Initiative 1.1 under student success. Still on student success, still on that first priority. Strategic Initiative 1.2, you're going to see this throughout the process, trustees. We thought it was very important with the fundamental changes that House Bill 8 did to our funding structure. We thought it was very important that that is incorporated into our overall strategic plan. And you're going to see that in a couple of these variations based on this. So 1.2, the state funding model alignment. Align Blinn College's student success goals with those outcome-based funding models under House Bill 8. It only makes sense to do that, trustees. That's how we're funded in the state, is outcomes-based. Our processes and services should be aimed at how we better utilize and reach those outcomes based in House Bill 8. So you've got a couple of goals under there. Those are the 3 outcomes-based funding formula, just a restatement so you just have them on your mind. Those credential of value attainment, successful transfer to a public 4-year university after completing 15 hours or completion of that structured co-enrollment program, and finally, completion of 15 hours of dual credit. Just put those on your mind. Those are the 3. We're not going to harbor on those too much. You've heard me talk about that enough, but that's incorporated into 1.2. Strategic Initiative 1.3, increase awareness of graduation pathways. Trustees, you've heard us talk about these wonderful programs that we have at the college that are really helping some of our students reach that completion. So increasing awareness of graduation pathways throughout the entire college district community. And those include traditional graduation. We're all familiar with traditional graduation, but that Lost Graduates program. You've heard me talk about this before. The Lost Graduates program, our registrar's office and Dr. McBride and her office have done just amazing work in this. What they were doing is mining our student data, not current students, but previous students, who had reached every single requirement for graduation except for applying for graduation. Something very small like that at the end. They had all the requirements done except for applying. What her group was doing was going back in a very strategic process, identifying those students, reaching out to those students and saying, do you know if you just fill out this paperwork, you can get graduation, you can get a completion, you can do all those things? Great for those students. Also benefits the college under our outcomes-based formula. Those graduations, whether they're traditional, lost graduate, or reverse transfer, which we'll talk about here in a second, they all count towards completion. So it helps those students, it helps the college, everybody wins. And of course, Dr. McBride's group have been systematically going through those lost graduates and continue to do that. Reverse transfer, you've heard me talk about this before. This is a prior Blinn student who has earned sufficient credits at another institution to reverse transfer those back to get a credential at Blinn. Once again, helps the student, helps the college, and it's wonderful. Actually, trustees, if you look at the numbers, the lost graduates and the reverse transfers are higher numbers than our traditional graduates right now. That's the work of Dr. McBride's office. Now, those lost graduates continue to go down because they keep mining all the data. There's only so many there. But if you look at our graduation numbers, lost grads and reverse transfers are more than traditional graduates. I think that's very interesting and something that is what I would say a hallmark of Dr. McBride and the registrar's office in identifying that and really chasing after that to get those numbers there. Very, very exciting program there. We've had thousands of students go through lost graduate and reverse transfer. Let's go to strategic priority 2. So first was student success. Now we're at performance excellence. Performance excellence, trustees. So the first one is stakeholder communication, the first bullet point underneath that priority. It's a commitment to expanding the communication about Blinn's continued excellence to internal and external stakeholders. And trustees, we have an amazing communication media marketing team with Rich Bray here in the back of the room. We have a great office of that. He does a wonderful job. And simply put, we're going to work with his office, the person that does all that, to execute those strategies. We do great things here at the college. We all know about it because we hear about it every day, every month at the board meetings, those sort of things. But really increasing that communication of that excellence to both internal and external stakeholders, I think is a wonderful, wonderful idea. 2.2, commitment to professional development and training. Performance excellence is beyond just our students. It also applies to our faculty and staff, the heartbeat of this institution. We'd like to increase those current offerings. We do lots of offerings for training and professional development and all those sort of things, but we're always looking at ways we can increase that, add to that, and continue to have that performance excellence for the entire Blinn College community. So we're going to consolidate some of the available training inventory, make sure we've got a single repository, if you will, for that. It's kind of spread out in a couple of areas. I'd like to get that all together so they know exactly where that training is. And then we'll also work with those stakeholders to define those additional training needs. Trustees, the wonderful thing about this strategic plan is we're not here with all the answers. This is a roadmap, if you will. We're going to work with those stakeholders. This is an ongoing process. You will, hopefully, with your blessing, approve this at the February board meeting. That's not where it ends. The work continues to go forward, to look at the data, talk with the stakeholders, and really flesh all of that out. Strategic Initiative 2.3, once again, Student Support Services for House Bill 8. This is that performance excellence for the staff that also benefits the students. So we want to ensure the delivery of the continued delivery of those excellent, exceptional student support services to facilitate the achievement of those outcomes-based models. Trustees, our student services group does an amazing job. They provide services that are beyond just the classroom. You've got student organizations, student clubs. They're putting on events at the beginning and throughout the semester to get that camaraderie, that community feel, if you will. And that's all to help our students succeed, because as they succeed, so do we. So that's the initiative 2.3. Priority number 3, final priority, planned growth. So we had student success, performance excellence, now we're on planned growth. 3.1, we have to tie this back to the facilities master plan. In conjunction with the Board of Trustees, you know, trustees, as we walk through that master plan, we bring those projects to you, we talk about updates. Of course, you approve any project that goes forward for contracting and those sort of things. So you're a vital part of this one and all of this. Conjunction with the Board of Trustees, continued execution of the facilities master plan by developing those needed resources to support the current and the future growth of Blinn. And those resources, we have just a brief list here: facilities, human resources, technology resources, other needed resources to continue the execution of the master plan. 3.2, current facilities. Master plan's great. We're talking about new facilities. Everybody loves the new ones, but we also have current facilities we have to keep up here. I want to make sure that we're optimizing our current facilities to support the work of the Blinn College community. As we all know, those facilities they're nice to have, they're nice to look at, but they serve a function, and that is to help our students and our community succeed. And so making sure we're optimizing those current facilities. Mark Feldake with facilities and Dr. Burton here do a great job with that, and this is all a team effort as we continue to execute those 2 items. You're going to see 3.3, House Bill 8. Focused planned growth must be in conjunction with the parameters of House Bill 8. Anything we do, trustees, now is viewed through the lens of House Bill 8, whether it's student success, performance excellence, or planned growth. It's got to be under the glasses of how does this help and advance the college in those outcomes-based formulas for House Bill 8. Next steps. Let's talk about it, guys. We're here today, February 8th. We're reviewing the proposed updated strategic plan here at the workshop. The next step, if you so approve, going to the February 20th board meeting, we're going to have a strategic plan update and adoption. We'll review this again. Any sort of feedback you have, then we'll actually adopt that. And then, of course, the third step, and this is very important, it doesn't end on February 20th. We monitor that ongoing work of the strategic plan, and that the committee will be monitoring that and continuing. This is not a document that sits on a shelf. This is a living document that we have to continue to revisit and figure out how we can do better. Trustees, comments, questions, any thoughts?
Can I ask a question? As the survey process, is the survey a custom or a tailor type survey? Is it generic, internally developed, externally developed? How much time do we give? What's a sample of a question? I just want to understand a little bit about that.
Sure. Good morning, Trustee Kettler. Myself and Dr. Johnson, and with the help of Leighton here, we all got together and developed a custom survey. It was designed to address the specific needs of the Blinn College District. And so we developed a number of items based on our expertise, and we loaded this survey into a survey platform that IRE maintains, Institutional Research and Effectiveness. And so they were all open-ended items. So basically we asked them about, what are some of the strengths that you hear about the Blinn College District when you talk to people in the community. And so the respondent would then just type in kind of a long-form response. Those responses, I performed something called an item analysis to understand what was being said and kind of categorizing and aggregating all the sentiments from a bunch of different people into kind of digestible tidbits of information, of insights. Did that answer your question?
That answers it. I have a little bit more though. As far as the, what's a sample question? Just what would be something that?
Sure. So I don't have this verbatim, although it is published to the Institutional Research and Effectiveness website, so we can make copies available. But one of the items that I can think of right now is what is one of the things that the Blinn College District can do better? It's very, very open-ended. It allows the recipient of the question to kind of fill in whatever meaning they want, because it's less about the question, it's more about what these folks are telling us.
And Dr. Johnson, I think it was, is it Dr. Johnson? Oh, okay. Very good. Good to have you here, sir. What is his role? What is your role? How do you sit down together and you've got an external person here, which is nice, and you can look independently, hopefully, at this, but what is your role in that?
Well, I appreciate the question, and I apologize for being a little bit late. The traffic from Austin was more fun than I thought going through Manor. So my role has basically been as an outsider to come in and help move the process forward and have that sort of outsider's eyes. So much of my background, I led most recently the Independent Colleges and Universities of Texas, so it's the private school association, and we went through a full strategic planning process with the board there. So I've had pretty good experience in doing this kind of work. So my role really is to kind of act as a consultant, guide, counselor. George mentioned when we did the SWOT analysis, so he and I spent several days doing theme analysis, developing those themes from those open-ended questions. We did a similar thing with the focus groups, so we held 3 focus groups that Leighton mentioned. I led those, and the idea there was to do a little deeper dive on some of the themes that came from the SWOT analysis. And so really I have seen my role as kind of the Sherpa to help through this process and support both Leighton and George where needed. And I tell you, your staff are just incredible here to be able to get the kind of data that we did and the responses we got. I was really enthusiastic of the focus groups because people really wanted to have those conversations, and it was great.
Do you think it was a college-generated survey? Do we have industry views, what other colleges are doing? Do we get that type of input? I mean, do we get economic data or economic views of things? And do you know what I'm saying, outside of a Blinn thought that might be, current events, that type of thing?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think
address those type of things other than.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we tried to do with the campus advisory groups too is to talk to some of those folks that are embedded in the community, business leaders. I mean, clearly that's a great viewpoint to feed back those sorts of information. We didn't go into in-depth on strategic planning. I know Chairman Colcourse, you were at one of them. We really more wanted to talk about the mission and vision. I know Leighton showed you those, to see is Blinn really still, approaching those, and then the strategic planning process is how best to fit the college's efforts to achieve that mission vision statement. But I know, talking with George and with Leighton and Chancellor as well, clearly there's lots of other information sources that feed in, particularly into the Institutional Research and Excellence Department, both from Student Clearinghouse, so information on students, but also from the Workforce Commission here in Texas, and organizations like the Texas Association of Community Colleges, which provides good feedback. And I know Leighton emphasized, obviously, HB8. That's kind of the unifying thing right now. And so there's lots of good information coming from TAC and from the coordinating board as they're working those rules through. I hope that answers your question.
It does,
Okay.
it does.
Great.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Will we get the board, could we see the results of the SWOT analysis? Because I think that would be very
Absolutely, yeah.
interesting.
Mr. Chairman, we might give you the summary of that. I'm not sure you want the raw data because it's pages and pages. We'll get you the, as George and them said, they analyzed it and categorized it. That might be what you want to see as opposed to just the random responses. We might get you the categorized, clean, organized data as opposed to just all of the stuff put together.
It said that we had a 17% response rate. Is that typical? Is that low? Is that?
Trustee Benke, yes, thank you for that. It's interesting to talk about response rates because it really just depends on your audience and the kind of data you're collecting. In this setting, in higher education setting, in modern kind of email kind of a survey, 17%, 18% is actually fairly good. We typically see response rates kind of south of 10%. So while it's not something that I was really excited about, I was really happy with the results. Absolutely, we would have loved to have more feedback, and that's one of the things that the Executive Council kind of mentioned, and so we addressed that with the kind of the follow-up focus groups, so kind of to enhance the conversation, to enhance the meeting that we got.
Okay, and the focus group said they were well attended. Do you have any kind of number of participants?
Yeah, across all of them, I think the one that was probably was most sparsely was the very first one. And that was facilities. Yeah, planned excellence. I'm sorry, planned growth. So we had 8 in that one, but the 2 that we held after those one had 22 of and part of it was the ability to do the combined in-person, which focus groups is better, but we knew for participation across multiple campuses, so we did have about half the folks join us by video. But, as the moderator, you just take that into consideration and make sure everyone has a chance in that format to weigh in. So I felt like I've led focus groups before. I felt like those were all really both well attended and really good feedback. Your folks aren't shy to talk, I'll say that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Trustees, thank you so much for your time. As I said, you're going to see this at the February 20th meeting, and we'll be asking for your a review and adoption of that at the meeting. So thank you, trustee.
Okay, well, I think that the next item on the agenda for this meeting is executive session. So in accordance with 551.071 and 551.072, we're going to move into executive session. I'll allow everyone that needs to leave to do that and let the technology guys do what they need to do, and we'll proceed.